Hi, it's Tom from FDS, and today we are going to look at carbon wrap, and this is the wrap itself, and this is just a self-adhesive vinyl, and it's a bit like a lot of Signwriters vinyl. 3M Dynoc is kind of the gold standard for carbon wrap, and you can see this has a bit of surface detail on it. It comes in different colours, you can get it in lots of different places. This was just some that I've had knocking around from an eBay buy that I did a while ago to do another couple of bits and pieces, and I decided that I wanted to wrap the centre of my drum mag, so I thought I would show you guys how to do the wrap. And what you do first is you're going to have to trim it up to size, so you need to get your rough size correct, and as you can see I've kind of trimmed that roughly to size. And you will also need a hot air gun of some description. This is like a little hobby one that I found somewhere, I can't remember where, but anything that can generate some reasonable heat. Be very careful obviously if you're putting a hot air gun for wallpaper stripping near your plastic parts, because you can melt them. A good hot hairdryer can work for this too, but obviously that blows quite a lot of air, so just be careful with hot air guns, and you will need them to stretch the vinyl. You will also need a nice sharp knife, and you may need some blunt type tools for shaping and for pushing the vinyl into the ridges. The first thing you've done after you're going to cut your vinyl to size is start and work out your start point, and I'm thinking that my start point is logically going to be up here, and I'll work the vinyl in there, and you can see there where that start point is, and then I'm going to work my way round. So start by peeling off some of your backing. The backing you can see is marked with grid squares, which just helps you get it square, and you must cut it very carefully and with a very sharp knife. So I'm just going to peel back a little bit of the backing. Now if you want to inhibit the sticking of this stuff a bit, you can by putting a little bit of damp. You can just make it a tiny bit damp in the surface. Obviously you could dismantle this, it would be easier in some ways with this apart, but I'm not going to because I'm in a hurry today. I'm just going to do it the quick and dirty way. I'm just going to do this for a game at the weekend, so I'm not going to get too obsessed about getting it all correct and super duper perfect. I just don't want any wrinkles. So you can see that's starting to wrap a bit more. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down this line here with my sharp knife, because I don't actually want it that far over because it won't stick. So I'm just going to cut like that very carefully with my knife. You need an absolutely fresh blade for this job. You can't use an old dirty blade that's all bent out of shape. You need a really good blade to do that. So you can see that's starting to wrap a bit more over the drum now. This is one of the reasons why you can't use it for actual blasters, because it doesn't like really tight turns. This is about the limit for turns with this material. You really can't get any tighter than what we've got here, because it just won't adhere over all your ridging. You don't get a good enough bond. Okay, so I'm coming to a lump again, and it pays occasionally to stop and just trim off your excess backing so it doesn't get in the way. So just remember to do that every now and again. And I'm coming to this lump, so I've got to heat the material a little bit more. Now there are lots of guides to do this on YouTube. If you want to watch a real professional work, that is the place to go. There's some extremely talented rappers on YouTube who do very nice work. I am not one of them, but as you can see, that is starting to look quite tasty now. Okay, so I'm ready to do some more edge trimming now. You've got to go careful with the blade. Remember that it's extremely sharp, and that obviously if it touches anywhere that you don't want to actually trim, it will just cut through the material. So just take your time. And don't apply too much pressure to the end of the blade. Let the actual knife blade do the work. Just gently run it along. This stuff does get very thin, especially when it's warm. Just run it along the edges. Slowly. Then you can peel off. Stuff's still quite sticky. And I've got a little bit here just to trim back. Now what you don't want to do is you don't want to trim the bit that you haven't actually fitted yet, because it will change shape as it goes on. So just keep away from that until you've got it in place. Right, if you do get little areas in the corners where it doesn't quite stick in, what you can do is you can cut a little tiny slot in there, and then afterwards you can go back and you can cheat and you can paint that in with a little bit of black paint, or if you've got a Sharpie pen you can colour it in with a Sharpie pen. So if you get these little tiny corners, it's not such a problem. So just a little bit of Sharpie pen over the crack, another one up here, a little bit in there. And that just hides the little tiny bits of orange that show through. You've got to make some stress relief cuts in these corners. Generally, the more expensive film actually wraps a bit better. So that's how you can tidy it up after you've finished. And you can apply this to most flat things. It does not work well with lots of ridges. You can see the trouble we had going over these lumps and bumps. So large flat surface is really good. Things like the cheek piece of a rapid strike, it's possible to wrap. Generally things with really mellow curves are much easier than things with tight curves. So the material does have limits. It's why I use Hydro Dip for shells, and I took advice from a professional carbon wrapper when I started doing some of the dip, and he suggested that you would be very unlikely to be able to wrap a shell. So there's the limitations of the material. So worth going out and trying out on a few things just to give you an individual look to your equipment.